I stopped being prejudiced against actors I don't think I like. You know, you have these preconceived notions of actors. Nah, I don't like Fred McMurray at that time. I don't like Fred McMurray at all. All right, maybe Shaggy Dog Time, but that's it. You know, I don't want to see him in fucking movies in 1933 when he was the stud. Fuck that shit. But just not stopping yourself from watching movies because you have a preconceived notion of an actor, and especially if it's an actor of the 30s and 40s, your preconceived notion really is based on very little, very, 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 very little. One of my favorite characters growing up, my favorite comic book character was Luke Cage, and they've got this really cool, it's a vintage toy, but this really cool Luke Cage doll, and so I show him a picture of the doll. I go, now I'm gonna get it for me, but if you want him, I'll give it to you.
They're written for an audience that wanted to be distracted by the books rather than looking for a book to keep them from being distracted. So there's a pleasure in wordplay in those books, in all those BoJack, especially, we talked about this last night, in BoJack especially, there's a real sense of fun in that.
Oh, yeah, well, I've gotten to the thing where I didn't really do this before, where like I'm underlining the books, I read with a pen. If I get a first edition of Last of the Mohicans, I'm not gonna put a fucking pen to it, all right? You know,
it's coming with an armed guard if you get a copy of Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, that should be shot. There's an ease factor to it. It just is natural. Whatever it is, whatever your strengths are, and you take that for granted. It's very easy for me to get the characters talking to each other, and then it's just off to the races, and away they go. And I'm like a court reporter writing it down. But writing prose is harder, and writing the film stuff is far, 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 far harder than that.
I was trying to save that till the end, but I guess this guy knows nothing about climaxes. But
I got 2 kids. I know a little bit about climaxes.
Yeah, especially when nutcrackers are involved.
I didn't want to watch the movie for the 27th time. I wanted a break. And then the filmmaker friend of mine showed up at the after party, and he looked at me like I betrayed his entire country by leaving. And I did, but I kind of didn't care.
An enormous impact not only on filmmaking, but on popular culture in the Western world. I didn't write a single word of that. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome that Oscar-winning rabbit, Quentin Tarantino.
Hey, everybody. Hey. Hi. Slightly more than a spattering of applause from myself.
And it's the humility that makes us love you as much as we do, Quentin.
Exactly.
Oh, gosh, there's so much to talk to you about, but you've been really in a writing mode in the past few years. Writing and reading and watching lots of stuff. Where's that coming from for you?
Wow. Well, partly because, it's a good question. I'm in no hurry to actually jump into production of a movie. I've been doing that for 30 years. And I'm just really kind of just enjoying being a man of letters right now. And some of that is just worked out in a really wonderful way because next month, my son turns 5. And I have a 2.5-year-old daughter. So it's wonderful just to, I split my time between Israel and America. So when I'm in America, I'm writing. And when I'm in Israel, I'm an Abba, which is Hebrew for father. And it's a joy. It's a real, real joy. And yeah, so the idea of jumping on a voyage that takes a year and a half when they're too young to really understand it is not enticing to me. I mean, I kind of want to not do whatever movie I end up doing until my son is at least 6. And that way he'll know what's going on when it's happening, and he'll be there, and it might be a memory he'll remember for the rest of his life. And I figure my daughter is such a genius that she'll have it by that point anyway.
Sounding a little bit like a dad. Okay. But I think...
A lot like a dad.
I got that from you. And I think what's been interesting, too, is that it's been affecting the way you've been writing about things. You've been taking like a third look at things, or also forcing yourself to look at things you haven't seen before. We've been talking a lot about this. You've been actually discovering movies. And I think these movies that you hadn't seen before, because a lot of them go so far back, it becomes a way for you to kind of relive your own childhood.
Well, that's definitely the case. I mean, it's like, there's two. There's kind of two answers to that, and they're actually both interesting answers. To put back away the one that you said about rediscovering my own childhood, that's one answer, and I'll give that to a second. But I've probably watched more movies this last year and a half than I've ever watched in my life, and for me, that's saying something. All right, but not new movies. All right, maybe I've seen 6 of the official new movies this year. But I'll see 6 movies from the 30s that I've never seen, like in a week, and it ain't shit. I mean, that's easy. I'll go through a DVD website that specializes in old movies, and I'll see a film that I've never heard of, Safari, with Douglas Fairbanks Jr. and Madeline Carey. Oh, boom. Okay, I'm there. I'll buy it. Boom. Just buy it. Sight unseen. Take it home. It shows up. I watch it. Boom. Great. But one of the things that's happened that has opened up an entire new avenue of movies for me, and I would recommend it, especially if you like old movies. This is something I learned, and it's a special thing, was I stopped being prejudiced against actors I don't think I like. You know, you have these preconceived notions of actors. I don't like Fred McMurray at that time. I don't like Fred McMurray at all. All right, maybe Shaggy Dog Time, but that's it. You know, I don't want to see him in fucking movies in 1933 when he was the stud. Fuck that shit, you know. But I mean, he's a good example. I mean, you know, but just not stopping yourself from watching movies because you have a preconceived notion of an actor, and especially if it's an actor of the 30s and 40s, your preconceived notion really is based on very little, very, 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 very little. And I realized that in many of the cases, I was wrong. They actually did have something to offer. There was something interesting about them. Maybe not in the cherry-picked movies that have survived. I mean, me, you, Pauline Kael, both have a healthy disregard for Robert Cummings. But when he was a young contract player at Universal, I would watch the movies he did before he became a star. He was actually really quite engaging, and that is a fucking shocker. If you're only basing it from Love That Bob or Saboteur.
Sabotage, yeah.
Saboteur.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a whole fucking different story. But then there's the actors that I love from that period, like Anne Harding that I just discovered this year. It became like my favorite.
Or Gail Patrick.
Gail Patrick, yeah. Okay, so Anne Harding, Gail Patrick. Just forget about it. I'll see anything with them. John Howard. I'll watch any movie of his, and I want to see all the films that John Howard did. And it's just kind of never ending. And then, you know, in the world that we live in with like so much stuff available on YouTube. Now, normally if I can get a DVD, I will watch a DVD. But it's just really, really, really invigorating. Now, the thing that's really fun as far as reliving my childhood is my son can't quite handle a movie from beginning to end yet. That's just, he's used to watching things in 15-minute segments or at the most 26, 25-minute segments. But the thing is, he's really, really into his action figures. He loves his action figures. And what's really, really cool is he's reintroducing me to the Marvel and the DC characters, because he's not coming from the movies whatsoever. He kind of knew who Spider-Man was before he even really kind of knew who Spider-Man really was. And then I buy him vintage toys. And so I never get him a toy. If he has any toy that has a picture that has the face of an actor from a new movie, I didn't fucking buy it to him, and I try to fucking get rid of it if somebody bought it for him. So all his characters are the original characters, but I introduce him to characters. There's no Luke Cage cartoon out there for him to watch, but I've introduced him to Luke Cage. I've introduced him to Tigra. All right. He has no idea who that guy playing Falcon is. His Falcon is red and white and is the 70s Falcon. That's the toy that he has. That's who he knows who Falcon is. And even something like I'm in a vintage toy shop, and I go, wow, I never really liked the Ghostbusters movies, but they have a whole, but with the real Ghostbusters cartoon, they had a great line of toys, just absolutely great line of toys. And I go, oh, well, he doesn't know what this shit is, all right, but let me buy the toys, all right, and I'll keep them. And if he actually ends up not responding to them, I'll just keep them, all right, because they're really cool. All right, and then I started showing him a couple episodes of the cartoons, and he really responded. And in the cartoon, the black guy Winston is the coolest guy in the cartoon. Not in the movies, but in the cartoon. He's absolutely cool, and he's Leo's favorite. He's absolutely Leo's favorite. And
between this and Luke Cage, I'm liking your son a whole lot.
Oh
more,
yeah,
right?
yeah. No, it's kind of crazy. It's not crazy, but it's serendipitous. He has an affinity for black males. There is this thing, he is drawn to the black male action figures. He's drawn to their masculinity. And like in the case of something like Luke Cage, I realized that, okay, now if I just drop a toy on him that he has no idea what the fuck's going on, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. He's always excited about getting it for a second, but that doesn't mean he's gonna play with it. I got him a Blue Beetle, and he was like, what the fuck is this? So then I figured, okay, wait a minute, I gotta be more clever about this, all right, So I was like, hey, Leo, I gotta let you know, one of my favorite character growing up, my favorite comic book character was Luke Cage, and they've got this really cool, it's a vintage toy, but this really cool Luke Cage doll. And so I show him a picture of the doll. I go, now I'm gonna get it for me. I'm getting it for me, but if you want him, I'll give it to you. And he's like, yeah, I want him. All right, and he's not that down with the female characters, all right? As a 5-year-old boy, his fucking class of school is like, 75% females. He's sick of girls, all right? And the house is full of girls except for me, So I buy a Tigra, and then I just put it on my desk. And so when he comes into the office, boom, he goes right to the toy. What's that, Abba? Oh, well, that's Tigra. That's a really cool character. I really like her a lot. Now, I don't know if you'll like her, but, I like her, and so I got her for myself to keep on the desk. Well, I like her. Well, then you can have her, And so when we do our our adventures and our battles, that's every night at bath time, or for 2 hours, it's just one scenario after another. Like, I have not stopped writing scenarios; they're just for an audience of one. And okay, the one exception to the actor thing is the Sam Jackson, Nick Fury. Is the Sam Jackson Nick Fury, and I wrote Sam Jackson. I go, Sam, I'm still doing your dialogue. I'm still writing dialogue for you, but it's just for my son. Hey man. Okay, everything starts with hey man.
It's funny because there's so much to talk to you about with this, but as you're saying these things, I'm thinking what cinema speculation became was you revisiting a lot of these things too, going back to your childhood, going back to these things that you were touching on. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood did that stuff too. It's like in some way you were teeing up for all of this, but I think you're at a part in your life now when there was a part we knew when we interviewed you were going to go off on something, and instead you're more reflective now. You're saying, well, maybe I should have looked at this, and it's been really interesting talking to you over the past couple of years, just because you would come at me with these 20 silent action pictures were just astonishing. And I was like, yeah, but
look, the best movie I've seen this year is The Silent Bogest. It's a fucking masterwork. It is absolutely beautiful, and I've gotten over any trepidation I had about reading the novel. So now I watched. We just had a huge event at the New Beverly in Los Angeles where we got the Library of Congress to lend us the only surviving print of the 30 version of the spoilers.
Yeah.
And then for the Video Archives podcast, we did a thing talking about the three versions of the three sound versions of the spoilers. Then I read the novel, and the novel was fucking great. And I've been exploring the different versions of The Prisoner of Zenda. Then I read The Prisoner of Zenda, and that was really terrific. And now I'm reading Beau-Sabert, which is the second of the Bogest Bogest trilogy,
yeah.
And then I'll read Bogest. And so just reading these, they're way above pulp, but they're not great literature at the same time. They're somewhere in the middle, but there's nothing dusty about them. I'm surprised at how engaging that they truly are.
But they were written for an audience that wanted to be distracted by the books rather than looking for a book to keep them from being distracted. So there's a pleasure in wordplay in those books, in all those Bogest, especially, we talked about this last night, in Bogest especially, there's a real sense of fun in that.
I've gotten to the thing where I didn't really do this before, where like I'm underlining the books. So I read with a pen, even though I'm getting like first editions or third editions or something, Well, if I get a first edition of Last of the Mohicans, I'm not going to put a fucking pen to it. All right,
That's because it's coming with an armed guard if you get a copy of Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah. That should be shot. All right. But I got a beat up like third edition of Beau-Sabert, which was was in conjunction when they did the movie. That's kind of a beat up version, but it still looks good and still looks terrific. And I knew that there was a better one on the market, and so I realized, this stuff is too good. I need to really underline these lines. There's an engagement with the book when you read it with a pen by you, and so you underline the special lines. And so it was like, I called my assistant, okay, get that really good one because I want to fucking mark this one up.
But that's the way you live with your stuff anyway. Your books at home have dog-eared pages in them, these things. Yeah. You don't buy stuff to collect. Even though you collect stuff, you don't buy things to collect. You buy things to read and to touch and to own.
Well, no, that's the thing. It's like I'm working on trying to get a first edition of Last of the Mohicans, and I might have to read it with rubber gloves, but I'm going to read it. That's the point, is to read it, not to just be happy that I have it and put it in a glass case. I want to read it.
But, that, to me, that sort of sense of the tactile, having to get your arms around stuff is who you've been all the time anyway, but that you're in this phase in your life now where you're omnivorous rather than being selective about the stuff that you've been eating has been really interesting.
Well, you're one of the few people I can share it with. So when we do talk, and we talk, usually few times, 4 or 5 times when I'm gone, 4 or 5 times a month. All right, and then it's just vomit when I have 2 weeks worth of shit to talk to you about.
But even when you were here, it's still that kind of thing. But I think your life has taken this interesting turn where it's all about really sharing stuff rather than like just saying, you got to watch this, saying, this is why I like this, because it connects here to this and it connects here to this. And there's this looking at everything in a way you hadn't really done before. I mean, even though you had a wide expanse, you were really selective in ways that you aren't anymore. And hearing you, as we, for example, following the career of Gail Patrick, who did all kinds of stuff and then ended up becoming a lawyer. It's crazy to do.
No, learning about her life and just watching all the different movies that Gail Patrick did. By the way, if you don't know what we're talking about, Gail Patrick is the movie you will remember her from is she's the bitch sister in My Man Godfrey.
But she's good in that because when
she's amazing in that, and I'm kind of rooting for her against blithering idiot Carol Lombard.
But when she has her turn, it's a real turn. I mean, her inflection.
No, but I love her little S&M moment when she makes Godfrey get on his knees and wipe her shoe. That is so fucking delicious. But they have a chemistry together he doesn't have with Carol Lombard, and they were fucking married.
There's a book to be written about that I won't get into. But instead, what I will say is that there's been every time
but sharing that with you, like, oh my God, I love Gail Patrick, and then we were off to the races.
Yeah, but I just find that there are times when people say stuff and you go, "No, I'm not gonna watch that," and you're not that guy anymore.
I'm not that guy anymore.
And I feel like Fatherhood has got you there, it opened that door for you more, but you've been moving that way in the last few years anyway. I think it's mostly because you're writing prose more, and it's forcing you to examine yourself in ways that writing and making movies had not. Are you enjoying this, that it's forcing this turn in you?
Well, it's like, there's writing prose, there's writing the film stuff I do, and then there's writing screenplays. And the screenplays are just so easy for me. They're so easy. It doesn't mean I don't work hard, but whatever you're really, really good at, there's an ease factor to it. It just is natural. Whatever it is, whatever your strengths are. And you take that for granted. It's very easy for me to get the characters talking to each other, and then it's just off to the races and away they go, and I'm like a court reporter writing it down. But writing prose is harder, and writing the film stuff is far, 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 far harder than that. I mean, it's actually made me kind of, as much as I make fun of them, it actually made me appreciate critics, because I could never just...
I'm right here.
Yeah, I know. I never could, I couldn't just, I mean, I guess I could if I was trained to do it for 10 years, but I couldn't just watch 5 movies that week and then intelligently articulate my thoughts that would be compelling to read on those 5 movies. I mean, when it comes to choosing movies to write about for cinema speculation or for another volume of it, I can't just choose what I want to write about and then just write about it. It's got there has to be some sort of a point or an argument with the page that I need to have that, as Pauline Kael would say, that would be a compelling reason to read it. And to me, there's no point in writing film criticism unless there's a compelling reason to read it.
But I think what you're writing, though, isn't just film criticism. I think a lot of it is this working autobiography. I mean, I think you're writing about what I was trying to get at.
Well,
here.
now you're talking more also like Pauline Kael. That's what she said. Not that I'm in the same class in any way, shape, or form, but but that was her whole thing. Is when people say, "Well, like, would you ever?" I think that's what good film critics do. And your film criticism is it's the Elvis Mitchell story. It's always between the lines, and you would have to take this paragraph or these 3 sentences out of 30 or 40 different reviews, but they would tell you the Elvis Mitchell story.
Here's a ransom note that set me free. But I don't mean just in that way that she was asking if she what, because she just said she wrote too much. And it was too hard. If you're writing 10,000 words a month, you didn't have time to go and, I guess for my hobby, I'll go write. And she was pouring herself into it and doing all kinds of other things. I think for you, this really is a kind of working autobiography, because there's you in cinema speculation. There's you in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. There's you in that essay you sent me from the spoilers. Mm-hmm. I mean, just you're explicating what you're feeling about these things is you're talking about yourself. And
well, isn't that where I should be at 61? I mean, that's kind of the thing, is you get to a certain place. And when
you're saying people automatically change? No.
Well, no, you definitely get more reflective, you know. I mean, when it comes to being a filmmaker, I've pretty much done everything I really wanted to do. And I mean, I don't say that in a cavalier way. I say that in a very proud way, you know, but I always equated filmmaking with mountain climbing, and I've climbed my Everest, I've climbed my Kilimanjaro, I've climbed my Fuji. I don't really have any more mountains left to climb as far as that's concerned. I've planted my flag, I've lived through the productions, and I've come out good on the other side, and I'm really, really proud of the achievements. And so I think you do get more reflective, and you do think about. I've always been nostalgic about the past, but but now I look at it in a different way, and I hope with a clearer set of glasses, and but to not just go down that old road. Now I'm really interested in, the time of cinema before my time, and before the time that was explicitly explored on local television.
Sure, yeah, that was our way in.
Yeah, that was exactly our way in.
That those movies referred to other movies, but we didn't know.
Yeah,
you had to go back and seek that stuff out. But what I'm saying is, I think you're now looking at the past through your past rather than looking just back. So it's given you a different perspective, and it's made you want to really expand that view and see more things. Mm-hmm. And ask a question about those things. No, I don't think it's automatic that people get reflective when they get older. Sometimes people just move into a shell, and it's very comfy in there with no light and no windows. And
it is interesting because, I mean, look, you've known me for a long time. Before I met Daniela, did you ever think I was going to get married?
I mean, I always had hope for you.
Well, I can say the same thing to you, mate. All right.
Thanks for having hope. But I think what's going. What?
No. But that's a direct question, though. I mean, you probably thought no. You thought that no. I guess that ship had sailed, and he had, I was happy. Everything was cool. Everything was great. But I might have been a hard nut to crack, but it was just because I hadn't met the right nutcracker, all right? And I'm really enjoying that analogy, all right?
I think we all are, as a matter of fact, yes.
But no, this is the woman to live my life with. This is the woman to change my life for. This is the woman to have children with, all right? And she's a wonderful mother, and no, this is now. My family is the most important thing in my life.
Well, it's great when life is good, but I think...
No, but not just that. No, but it's just the idea, though, but that's different, because I could have just kept going on in the way I was going on, and everything would have been okay.
But I'm going to posit this, because you were moving that way before that, and I think what this did is, again, give you a foundation to rest on. So you go, now I can really do these things. But it's been happening for a while. And I think part of it, too, is... Again, you being able to see the past through your own past. And I know you've been saying that you've done everything you want to do. I think, though, or I want to ask you, and especially here since there's nobody in the room with us, that
Okay, just between you and me.
Yes, no device. I checked all the devices at the door. That your writing now is really different. And when you send it to me, there's real excitement in it. And as we're talking about, you're excited about these things in a way that you weren't excited about the screenplays. It's a very different kind of, because you're actually even kind of anxious about some of it because you're finding a new way. And I think as you're writing these pieces and you're going to turn to writing theater stuff, and which you've already actually been doing some of that stuff.
Well, that's what I'm working on right now, guys. If you're wondering what I'm doing right now, but I'm writing a play, and it's going to be probably the next thing I end up doing.
Well, good night, everybody. I was trying to save that till the end, but I guess this guy knows nothing about climaxes. But it's too easy. But
got 2 kids. I know a little bit about climaxes.
Yeah, especially when nutcrackers are involved. But moving on, 2, 3, 4. I think that, or I want to ask that, if that becomes a way back into making movies, because then you're not trying to compete with yourself anymore. And I think what you've been talking about as I climbed all these mountains, you were competing with yourself every time you made a film. What's this going to be that this one wasn't? And because I've seen too many drafts that you've thrown out to know that you weren't competing with. You're not complacent about that. And I feel like, and this is a way to ask you this, when you do return, because I'm just we can speculate here, so I did a book with speculation in the title. When you come back to this, you can come back with a whole other perspective in which you're not trying to say, well, I climbed all those mountains. You know, maybe there's an ocean you want to cross, if I can torture a travel metaphor.
Well, I really enjoy that metaphor, actually, but I'm not, and it probably would be that. It wouldn't be a mountain climb, it would be an ocean voyage. And I'm going to start using that from here on in. Thank you very much, Mr. Mitchell. Not that this is the first time I've taken a line you've said and made it my own. All right.
I don't know what's in these drinks, but it sure makes it easier for you to talk.
But actually, that's actually really clear. Well, we'll see what happens. All right, you know. Right now, I'll be about my play, and if it's a fiasco, I probably won't turn it into a movie. But if it's a fucking smash hit, that might be my last movie.
Again, I think you keep saying last. At the danger of repeating myself.
I'm not expecting to live that much longer, and I don't mean that in this weird thing. I mean, I don't want to be I don't want to be a super old man. All right, you know. I still have a bit of rockabilly in me, all right? I kind of want to go out when I'm not fucking decrepit, you know, especially since I've done a lot of the things that I want to do. And
that's one of the things you've been saying about family, which we all know to be true, that you found this, I don't want to go to the cliche like New Lease on Life, but it's giving you this other way of thinking about things and this other way of applying yourself.
Yeah, and I don't want my kids fucking changing my diapers, man. That's fucking bullshit, all right? You know, I mean, look, I've done a lot of stuff, you know, okay. As soon as my daughter is old enough to fucking remember me for the rest of her life, I can fucking sail off. Now, that doesn't mean I want to die. I'm just saying life is not... You
can't have any more of this because...
I'm just saying I've done what I wanted to do, and it's not about holding on.
But I'm not asking you to, again, that's why I moved away from mountain climbing and competing with yourself, because you love writing too much, and you love actors too much. And you love actors, and you can't talk to any actor who's worked with you who hasn't talked about it as being a life-changing experience in the most positive way possible. And you're a bit of a rockabilly, and sometimes that means you're a bit of a junkie. Mm-hmm. And you get that hit from being out there, not the first day, but the 50th day when you had to cancel this thing and make this thing work, and that thing didn't show up for you.
Well, okay, well, look, that's all very true. Nothing has changed when it comes to production. Production is just as glorious and exciting as it ever was. I have the material. I have the scenes that we're now officially dramatizing them, and I have the actors, and I got to figure out how to do it on camera, and it's just, that's all just as delicious and exciting as it was the first day. And editing is pretty much the same thing, all right? That is just really delicious, and now, okay, I've done this, and now theory is gone, and now you've got the tools, make the house. That's all really great. It's everything that exists before it and everything that exists on the other end of it that I'm just really jaded and just kind of over it. And I remember when I wasn't. I remember when everything was exciting. I remember when being at Sundance was exciting. All right, this is really cool, but I'm not excited about being here. It's fucking cold.
Again, I'm right here, okay?
But but the thing is, though, it's just I don't want to be this jaded guy. I mean, I'll just give you an example of that. Where it's like, I would, you go and do the international press tour, and you go to Italy and Spain and France and Germany, and you do the press for those countries, and that was always just really, really exciting for me. And like, no, I want 2 days off when I'm doing this stuff, so I can go to the record stores and the used record stores and go walk around and do this and do that and touch base with my friends in Japan and everything. I still do that in Japan. All right, but and then we have the big premiere, and then everybody else is going off and having dinner or something. And no, this is my chance to see it with an audience. Yeah, it's a premiere audience, but nevertheless, it's going to be the closest I come to watching it with a Spanish audience, or watching it with an Italian audience, or a German audience. And so when it came to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I was at a country, and then I had some friends in the audience, filmmakers, and I've always watched the movie with them. And this time, I introduced the movie, I sat down and watched it for the first 15 minutes just to make sure that, it was playing well, and the laughs were coming where they were supposed to come, and I was like, okay, let's go and get dinner. I'm fucking hungry. Let's go and get dinner. We'll go to the party afterwards. And the whole audience watched me get up and leave. And kind of kicked them in the balls. And I kind of didn't care. I wanted to fucking go get something to eat. I didn't want to watch the movie for the 27th time. All right? I wanted a break. And then the filmmaker friend of mine showed up at the after party, and he looked at me like I betrayed his entire country by leaving. And I did. But I kind of didn't care. And that's when you get out. That's when you get the fuck out.
Rebuttal, Your Honor. There are sometimes filmmakers who don't sit through their movies again and again and again.
But I was never them.
But you're not that guy anymore either. I mean, you're an older
that means
guy.
It's time to, because I don't want to be them. I've never was them.
Then let me offer you this, because sitting in this room, and I actually made notes about this last night, I think in a few years you're going to be ready to do, and I am not kidding about this, your one-man show on Broadway. Thank you, Mom. Boy, this audience. Anyway, telling that kind of story about yourself, because you still get off on the way audiences respond. And I think you made the movie in your head now in the way that you hadn't when you first got started. So you don't need that kind of interaction with the audiences anymore. So that's what I mean by you're not that guy. I'm not saying you're not the guy who doesn't care. I'm not saying you're not the guy who, you just don't need that catalyst anymore. But you
not after I've had 27 experiences like that, the same. Yeah,
but
yeah,
you
yeah,
still like that.
The laughs are there. I got it. Yeah.
But you still let that. That would be the purer way of doing that, rather than watching the audience watch you doing yourself in front of an audience. And that's why I think the play aspect of your career is going to be important, but I really do see that in your future.
Well, maybe. All right. You know, that might very well be. I mean, the thing that I find exciting about doing a play is this no, I gotta pull it off. And well, one, here's the thing is, and that's a big fucking deal. That's a big fucking deal pulling this off, and I don't know if I can. So here we go. All right. So that's really exciting, and that's a challenge, a genuine challenge. But making movies? Well, what the fuck is a movie now? Okay, what the fuck is a movie? Know what? Something that plays in theaters for a token release for 4 fucking weeks, all right? And by the second week, you can watch it on television. I didn't get into all this for diminishing returns. I mean, it was bad enough in 97, all right? I mean, not in 97. It was bad enough in 2019, and that was the last fucking year of movies, all right? And that was a shit deal as far as I was concerned. The fact that it's gotten drastically worse, and that it's a show pony exercise now, the theatrical release, you know, and then in 2 weeks you can watch it on this one and that one. Okay. Theater? You can't do that. Theater? Yeah, they pay a lot of fucking money to get in that seat, but there's no fucking taping it. There's no fucking cell phones. Hello, everybody with a cell phone. Okay. There's no fucking cell phones. You own the audience for that time, for that for that moment. They are all yours. They are in the palm of your hand. And it's not just about doing art. It's about wowing them. It's about giving them a great night out. They made it worth it for them. Now that to me is fucking exciting.
This takes me back.
It's the last frontier in a strange way.
Yes, this takes me back to why I said I think at some point you still respond to that, what you just got here, and what you get. You weren't able to make it when I was able to finally persuade you to when we did the live version of Reservoir Dogs with an all-black cast. But to see how that reinvented itself, and to see how those actors were responding to that, and it felt like a new thing. And I know that for all of these, and I'm not trying to argue with you. Actually, I am, but I'm not trying to disagree with you about feeling that experience with the film is over. But there's still the person in you who responds to the way people respond. And so much of what we've been talking about with these old movies is imagining how audiences were responding to seeing these people for the first time at the beginnings of their careers, and seeing how the camera took to them, and seeing what that did, and imagining that compact between the screen and the crowd, and that agreement, and what you get to do when you have that audience there waiting to see what you're going to do next, is still a part of the way people respond to your films.
Well, look, that you know, there's a lot of gratifying things that I can point to my career, but one of the things that being here at Sundance has really made me think about was the fact that our Sundance in '92 was one of the biggest Sundances ever. A good majority of the films that played in competition got theatrical releases, and they weren't token theatrical releases. They actually really got played, and a lot of the filmmakers, you know, did 2, 3, 4 movies that you know that all were theatrically viable. But it's now 30 years later, and I've been able to work at the highest echelon of the film industry, and there still is an excitement for my work. And there still is an excitement of what I'm going to do next. And that's probably that's the greatest trophy of all, because that doesn't happen that often. I mean, negotiating a 30-year career and then to still leave them wanting more. That's okay. But going back to our touchstone, Pauline Kael, when she retired, 3 years happened, 4 years happened, 5 years happened, 6 years happened, and you think, what did Pauline Kael think about this? What did Pauline Kael think about this movie, and that movie, and this movie, and that movie? And it was insatiable. You wanted to know.
I just called her.
Yeah. We all weren't so lucky. All right. And leaving them wanting more is the game. But few people play it.
I gotta ask you this then, because
that was such a great last line, man.
Oh, me. Oh, now you're finally talking to me. Well, I think the point of this whole exercise is nobody wants your last line yet.
Okay. Well said.
Oh, thank you for that indifferent round of applause. Listen, I think what this is about is for me, the thing that keeps you interesting. And I think maybe if I flatter myself, the thing we have in common is that we're both still capable of being excited by things. And that's when that doesn't go away, that's when I think a career is still viable. Because there are lots of people, and that's, even though she retired, and it was mostly because of exhaustion, just because she couldn't do it anymore. Pauline still have that. She could still be excited by things. I still get a call about, did you see this thing? Or I read this thing you wrote, and that was mind-blowing.
A neat story, because I'm dealing with it in this thing I'm writing. A neat story is in the last 10 years of her life, these other young people discovered her like me and you discovered her. And they write her a letter, and almost invariably she wrote them back. And if they put down a phone number, she called them. And created a correspondence with them. And they're young people. Okay, now, imagining anybody writing now that would stop writing 5, 10 years, and forget about somebody who stopped writing their 10 years young people's junior, forget about 40 years young people's junior, that are still dying to know what they think. Okay, it's just a different breed. All right, she's 1 in a million, 1 in 9 million. Her and Manny Farber, boom, that's it. And but she talked to these young people. Now, half the time she dismissed young people's thought, well, they just don't fucking know any better. They don't realize that Pretty in Pink is just a fucking Dina Durbin movie, just with an 80s soundtrack. And she can't sing either. Or it's self-congratulating, which is what she thought most of the youth movies of the 60s were. But she did feel that it was possible that young people could have their finger on the pulse, that a Frank Rich or a Rich Corliss or Stanley Kaufman just wouldn't fucking get at all. And she wanted to investigate that. And so one of the things was somebody who got in touch with her in the 90s was really into the Hong Kong movies and started sending her some different VHSs of Hong Kong movies. And she watched them. Okay, so he sends her and I don't know who it is, so excuse me for not giving you credit. All right, but he sends her his 3 favorites: Bullet in the Head, Ashes of Time, and Better Tomorrow Part 3. Okay, she doesn't even So they didn't even finish Bullet in the Head. What the fuck is that shit? All right. And Ashes of Time, just forget about it. All right. She turns that off maybe after 20 fucking minutes. But really, really liked Better Tomorrow Part 3. Now, which is interesting, because if you were really a fan of that series, you were kind of disappointed by Better Tomorrow Part 3. Because by the time I saw Better Tomorrow Part 3, I had watched at least the shootout sequence of Better Tomorrow Part 2 25 times on VHS. But it was kind of in the situation of Exorcist 2. If it didn't out-puke the first one, then it's going to be disappointing. Well, Troy Hark is not even competing with that. But what he does is he makes a romantic wartime melodrama in the vein of Morocco or something like that, but with two people, in the case of Anita Moy and Chow Yun-fat, that are genuine old Hollywood movie stars in a way that didn't exist anymore in Hollywood. But even more important was Troy Hark didn't direct it with quotes around it.
No, I was just saying, it's a classical style of sort of epic.
He directed it like a fucking RKO director would have directed it. And the audience in Hong Kong accepted it that way.
And I think it helped, too, that she hadn't really seen the other parts because she didn't know what it was that he was reiterating or the footprints that he was trying to avoid. And she was just responding in terms of filmmaking. Maybe she didn't like Ashes in Time. She said, well, it was worth it if it got us to In the Mood for Love. But she responded to the filmmaking.
I would say Chungking Express, but okay.
Well, again, that's why you two guys argue when you got on the phone with each other. Yeah. But I think what she, again, that thing that...
I actually don't think she would have liked In the Mood for Love.
She did like In the Mood for Love.
Oh, well, then I'm wrong. Then I don't know everything.
I guess that's a great place to end it. Let's thank Quentin Tarantino for being here. And by the way, he came a long way to do this. I thank you so much for doing this.
Anything for you, mate.